And more asylum seekers staying at New York City shelters will soon be subject to curfews. Under the new rules, some 3,600 migrants at 20 additional shelters won't be able to leave or enter between 11 p.m. at night and 6 in the morning. Eyewitness News reporter Sonia Rincon is on the Lower East Side tonight outside one of those shelters where the new curfew will go into effect tomorrow. Sonia, good evening.
Good evening, Shantae. I've spoken to some of the migrants staying at the shelter here on East Houston Street, and they're a little camera shy, but they do tell me that they don't mind the idea of a curfew as long as those who need to work can stay out past 11 p.m. and they can. This has been the policy at some of the larger migrant shelters, and it is very common to have a curfew like this at many of the city's homeless shelters. But now, starting tomorrow, Monday, 20 more small hotels that house migrants will have those curfews, like the Gatsby Hotel here on East Houston Street. A statement from City Hall says the city is doing this at these smaller HPD-run sites to allow for more efficient capacity management for migrants in the city's care. Of course, there are concerns about migrants and crime given the arrests of Venezuelan migrants in the last few weeks, and incidents that usually happen before 11 at night. Again, the migrants we spoke with had young children. They said if they're not working, they're asleep at 11, so they don't feel affected by this. Neighbors of one small hotel housing migrants in Hell's Kitchen on West 46th Street told us they have not had any issue with migrants and safety. If anything, they're concerned for their safety in an area that usually sees a lot of nightlife traffic, which means noise and drinking and partying from people who are not migrants.
I don't see how that, when people are drinking and they're high, that necessarily mixes with a family with small children who have just come to the city and they're in New York City.
We are a nation of immigrants. There's 100 reasons why we need them. This doesn't bother us. This is what makes our country wonderful. And then the rest of the nation needs to understand that. As long as we have room, that's fine.
Now, as to whether neighbors there think a curfew is a good idea, that neighbor said if her community board supports it, she has no issue with it. There are more than 200 emergency shelters that the city has been using to house migrants, and it's not clear why these 20 were selected for that curfew, but it could have to do with the numbers of people staying there. This new rule that takes effect again tomorrow will affect about 3,600 people.